Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy. Welcome to a monthly talk show I call Our Caring Community. And it's with two of my good friends and colleagues, Susan, who's with Gentle Home Services, which is a home care organization here in the Chicagoland area, and Ellen, who's our senior housing expert. The three of us started connecting every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. when the pandemic started, and it was Susan's idea for us to stay connected so that we could stay connected to support, really, during a time that felt really like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And today we're going to talk about how we're managing our fatigue around the pandemic. So the new normal is that we wear masks, we wash our hands, and we stay 6 feet away from each other. And we don't do things like go out to dinner, get together with co-workers at our workspace. Everything is different, and we're coming up on a year. So I'm wondering, what is it that you guys miss the most about life before the pandemic? So
I'll go first.
I was going to say, Ellen, you are like ready to go. What is it that you miss?
I miss hugging and touching. I miss touching my residents here. I miss hugging my people I haven't seen, my sister, my mom. I miss touch.
Susan, how about for you?
Yeah, I have to agree with Ellen that and that physical proximity to your family. I usually go to Seattle a couple times a year, and that's not happening. And for me, for my work family, it's that impromptu-ness of, I got to tell you something that, you could just run down the hall or, talk over your partition about something that happened or something that you just read, and you don't have that that instantaneous, I got to share something with you, or I want to talk to you about something. That's hard.
Yeah, the lack of connection to a team, someone with a goal like yours so that the company is successful, who's committed and passionate about the work that you could talk to about that commitment and passion. Yeah, that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I work a lot. And one of my breaks was to go to watch my nephews and niece run cross country and track. And we haven't been able to do that for a year. And I did not think anything of that when it first started, but now I miss it because it was the looking ahead, it was the planning, it was seeing my sister and brother-in-law at the meets, it was gossiping, it was talking about what's going on, it was cheering, it was a different kind of energy around those meets. And yeah, I miss that. That is one thing that I miss more than going out to eat. I think we miss the planning around something we could do that's different in our day.
Yeah, so important. And imagine these kids that are, looking for scholarships for college, that's on hold. And the college athletes that are hoping to get into the pro arena, that's delayed or on hold, or kids have another year of eligibility. That's their long-term goal, and it's affecting their long-term life career. I think we've got it easy.
Yeah, I know. I think it's hard. I just think that we have more reserves. We have more resilience because we've had setbacks in our life. We're able to bounce back. And I do think if you're a young adult, this is really testing you in a way that you might not have been tested. So, for instance, I have a nephew who runs cross country and track at Michigan, and he was set to run in a race, except someone is now positive, which means that the team can't compete. They're also in that planning stage. They're training and planning for the next meet. And then when it doesn't happen, Christmas is gone. That's hard. I think that's the fatigue that we might experience where we're looking ahead, planning, and then boom, it's gone. Just like we're trying to stay on top of information around vaccinations and when and how. And that information is just a little fuzzy for us. It's not as detailed and organized as we want it to be. So we're pivoting pretty much every day based on information. So how are you guys staying I guess, okay with changes in information, because that's hard too.
I have to consciously reframe things because things are different. And I can go down the negative route if I want, or I can say, here's all the great things this pandemic has changed in our culture. For example, the neighborhood. I, I'm more engaged in the neighborhood. I like to see kids play outside. I like going back to the basics of when we played in the backyard, because I don't know if that's been happening in the last 15 years.
Yeah, Susan, how about for you? What's been a positive that's come out of the past year for you?
I think family time, getting back into the board games, um, learning new crafts. I mean, I picked up knitting again. I found my old bag of stuff that I haven't touched in years. It's like, oh my gosh, I used to love doing that and I got out of it. I've had to relearn how to do some things, and cooking, learning how to cook differently. We talk about looking at our own lifestyle and our health and making some changes that we can to improve our health. I'm okay getting old, but I don't want to be old and sick. I just want to be old and beautiful. So, looking at how to do things differently in my kitchen. So that's been kind of fun, looking at new recipes and a new way of cooking, and just being smarter about some things, which if I was, running around, I probably wouldn't have that kind of time. You get in a hurry and you're rushed and you grab for that instant, quick, fast food meal, which is not healthy. And now we're all at home.
For those of you who don't know Susan, Susan's very good about posting on social media about what she's cooking and the recipes. And I have to tell you, you've inspired me. That pizza recipe was kind of awesome. So that's been new too.
Susan and I also live in the same suburb, and she just had something happen within her part of our suburb, her neighborhood, just the other day. And it was how everybody got together to find a lost dog. So,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
tell us what happened.
It was the middle of a snowstorm earlier this week, and my neighbor knocked on my door and, can you help me? I got everything up on social media in the Lost Dog Illinois, and we all grabbed our coats and went out looking for little Woody. I couldn't believe how many people in the neighborhood responded. People that I hadn't met yet that moved in the fall that nobody got to meet. They were out there with their dogs and their kids, and everybody was just combing the streets and the alleys looking for this poor puppy that just, quickly took off. Good news is there was a happy ending. He comes marching back home like nobody's business. Like, what do you guys mean I was missing? But it was really warm, heartfelt from the community that people just responded. They could have stayed home and just stayed on their Netflix, but in the middle of a snowstorm, people still have faith and goodwill and kindness. And I just get goosebumps retelling the story.
And I do think that people are looking for a way to be of service.
Yeah.
Because we do see our healthcare workers, and you guys are included in that category, being of significant service, and how important that is. And so I do think that people want to be of service and might not be able to figure out how. So when there's an opportunity, they're going to jump on it. I'm of service. I'm going to go out and find Woody.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Something also that I found about our neighborhoods is that when I go for a walk, everybody's out now, which is what you were alluding to, Ellen. And I find that there's a connection to the neighbors that I didn't have before, because I can wave hello to them because I see them all the time. So there's one neighbor who I'll see all the time on my walk, and he saw me one time when I got caught in a rainstorm and I was running back to my apartment. And the next day he saw me and he said, "How are your shoes?" Because he knew my shoes were going to be soaking wet. He said, "I've got a tip for you. Put newspapers in them. It'll dry them out." I said, Thanks so much. And then when we had a warm day before Christmas, everybody was out putting their Christmas lights up, and I was able to wave and say, I love your lights. And people were like, thank you. That never happened before because I never saw anybody out because we didn't have the time, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was, we were so rushed. It was rush, rush, rush. We were rushing for work, rushing to travel, rushing to take our kids, I don't have them, but to different activities. It was just a rush that we were in before. And this really has forced us to slow down. And I
Yeah,
also,
I think that's important to make a note of is we have always been in such a hurried lifestyle that this has really put us back to slowing down, paying attention, appreciating the moment, because we don't know when that moment might go away or change, and just appreciate what we have.
absolutely. I think of this time as a really long winter, and we're Chicagoans, so we know what it's like to live in winter. And we put heavy coats on, we put our boots on, lots of layers. And after a few months, we're like, gosh, I really want to stop doing this. I want spring because I don't want to put so many layers on. So our fatigue is around, we have to keep putting the layers on, so to speak. We have to keep living in winter. And several years ago, I started writing little pieces of prose around when it feels like every day is like a winter where you are bagged down or bogged down by worries and stresses. And I turned these pieces of prose into a book, which is called Take Comfort. And there's 4 in the series. And Susan has asked that we talk about the first book in the series, which is Take Comfort today. And it's, again, just pieces of prose around a word. And I look at a word and what it means during a time that feels like winter, and then how we can flip the switch and look at it in terms of what's a positive, what's a gain. The book is split into the seasons, and we're going to talk about spring today. So there were words around spring. What did you guys think of the book? What did you think about the words in spring?
I want to know what motivated you to come up with all of these words. You're brilliant.
Oh, well, you know what? It was because I have lots of winter days, so to speak, lots of challenges. And for me, if I sat in the challenge, I just would just feel terrible about it. So I needed a way to figure out how to work out the challenge, and writing for me is a way that I work through it. And you'll see as we look at the different Take Comfort books, you'll see where my caregiving experience with my parents really influences the words because they were long winter days where the sunlight was few and far between. And I needed to find some sun, some light, and writing it out is how I find the light.
Mhm.
I
I,
also like to pay attention. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Susan.
there were a couple things when I was reading the first chapter about spring and the prose page about spring. For me, it just said, when you talk about, spring is coming, we go through a winter. We always use that, this too shall pass. We
Oh, yeah.
know that we're going to get through this. We've done it before. We know there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not another train, it's spring. And so that really was a nice page for me.
And when I think about spring, one of the things we love about spring is that it's different than the season we just went through. And it's a rebirth, and it's growth, and it's fresh, and it's new. You can't have spring unless you have some winter before it. Because if it was spring all year long, it wouldn't be quite as wonderful. So maybe that's a Chicagoan way of looking at things, having 4 seasons. But spring is so beautiful because winter can be hard and long.
I like words. Actually, I love words. So I like to take a word and play on it and see what comes out. But I also really love nature, and I find nature to be healing. And if we look at how can we be in nature, we are reminded that life continues, that with an end, there's a beginning. So winter could be the ending, but there's always a new beginning. There's always new growth. There's always a new blossom. There's always something new we can see about our day and our lives. And I find that to be really refreshing and comforting. that we ourselves as individuals don't have to stay who we are right now. We do have an opportunity to be better and to grow and to learn and to receive too. So winter doesn't feel like a time that we can receive, but yet it's that inside growth. That's what happens during winter. There's internal growth, and then it just is visible to us in spring. So in the winter of our lives, we can think about, how can I grow internally? How can I learn to cook better? How can I knit? How can I connect with my neighbors in a new, interesting way? And then when spring comes, we come out as this new growth. I find that fascinating. So when we think
Maybe it's
about,
Mother Nature's way to rejuvenate herself, besides
oh yeah,
blowing snow and
yes,
raining. But
yes,
you need that quiet time to regenerate yourself.
absolutely, which is why not being rushed gives us time.
Mhm.
Time is this amazing commodity that we try to fill too much instead of just looking at time as a way to reflect and receive and really receive. Ellen, I think you wanted to add something.
It was just making me think of sacrifice, that next word of rejuvenating and giving and things like that. So
Because it does feel like we're in a time of sacrifice.
Huge. And it's not always by choice either.
Imposed sacrifices can be really tough.
Mhm.
And then how do we live within imposed sacrifices?
But you made that sacrifice pros so positive. Yes, we're giving up, you know, physical connection with our families. We might give up a vacation, and you bring it in the context of being a care provider. But when you think of a young family, their young parents, the sacrifices they make, they're putting off vacation. Maybe they're delaying a career opportunity as they're raising their family. And now that we're caring for older adults or a family member, we make similar sacrifices as we age. But not only the sacrifice, you put a very positive spin on that, looking at what else we still have, our dignity, our self-respect. It's not about me, it's about them and how we are able to give back and find comfort in providing comfort for them. And I think that's a very powerful message for the people in the caregiving um, space to recognize and know that it's not unrecognized.
I used to try to pivot from sacrifice to compromise. What's the win-win rather than the lose-lose? Now I almost think of the pivot from sacrifice to the idea of what can we invest in? So we had a really interesting week on Wall Street where all these day traders and people like us were, just really moving the market, which I find is interesting. So we have energy we can invest. And when we have a clear view of priorities and values, then we invest our time in something that gives back to us. So the sacrifice can feel like, well, we've lost our vacation this year. How did we invest instead in our family?
one
So
of
we,
the things that I like that goes with this theme is, and I've seen it happen a lot, and I said to a friend of mine, he's taking care of his mother and father, and they live an hour and a half away. He's driving over there in the middle of the night sometimes, and he said, I'm exhausted. And you confided in me, and this is hard. And, because of my profession, he's like, Ellen, what am I supposed to do? How do I do this? We had many talks over a year. And I said to him one day, as he told me he had taken his son with him to grandma and grandpa's. And I said, do you realize what you're doing for your children? The modeling that you are giving them without a word of how to care for the elders, how to respect elders. You're building in them what you hope they'll do for you someday in the future too. I said, that is a precious gift that you're giving your children. I think that's wonderful.
You know what's interesting too? It's the investment in relationships. So there's an investment in his parents that he's showing for his children, but he's also showing his children how to invest in a relationship and how to stay connected to a relationship and why relationships are so important.
Mhm.
Okay, I think we're going to close. So thank you guys so much. Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Ellen. Always great to connect with you. Just want to mention that Take Comfort books are available free on Kindle during the month of February. So each month, each Monday, there'll be a new Take Comfort book in February that's available free for a Kindle download. And there's a link below that will connect you to the 4 Take Comfort books. They're available in print and on Kindle. Okay, thanks everybody.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks.